Okay, 8 o'clock's our time, so we'll make a start. Good morning, evening, etc. Welcome to our third seminar on the Capstone project, Internet of Things. And we'll get started. A few things to cover. Again, a quick reminder, everything will be recorded and posted so you can watch it if you missed it. Link is on edX. This morning we'll have through of what's needed in the next couple of weeks. It's mostly to do with making sure everyone's submitted the Canvanizer, which I think everyone has. The video is due on the 20th, so we need to get that in. We'll talk a bit about the funding and costing report that's due in a short period of time. Okay, another chance. Has everyone received answers to their email? Anyone putting hands up? If not, let us know now. And if you can't contact us on this, send us another email just to bring it back to the top of the list, but I'm pretty sure we've got through everyone. Last week we talked about names for devices or solutions, so I'm hoping everyone's got one and you can post that up in your groups and we'll have a bit of a look through that. As I said, it's a handy idea to give some character or some personality to what you're working on, and it's a lot easier than a long description as the title. Okay, the Canvanizer. We've got a couple of marks just to get in from people who either didn't receive a second peer mark because of the numbers of people, or a couple that are commercially sensitive, so we'll get those out very soon. But in general, extremely average was 18.6 out of 20, so very good marks there. A lot of people put a huge amount of work into their Canvanizers, and yeah, it's quite impressive in a lot of cases. If you didn't receive the mark that you liked, please let me know, and we can run through possibly a few suggestions on how to improve the Canvanizer, because it is there to assist you with developing your ideas, your thoughts, what you want to do, the scope of your project, etc. So it's quite an important thing to keep to make sure you're on track. It's also good to use your team as a sounding board, so we've seen a reasonable amount of this going on, and that's great. Other things we need to do, have a look at the videos that we've uploaded from Todd and Nick. They will help guide you through the costing and the basic principles of costing that's involved in this. So let's have a look at what the market research and costing plan consists of. At this stage, the intended audience is only you and us as the advisor. If you intend to capitalise your idea, then you've really got to rework it a little bit to suit the kind of people you'd be approaching, either your own company, finance people, investors, venture capitalists. Be careful of venture capitalists. They take a lot. Anyway, but you've got to rephrase it for that particular area that you want to gain funding from. This part is really key in understanding the industry you're intending to become involved in, looking at what your product does and how it matches into that industry. It includes the pricing competitor analysis we've touched on previously, but we'll be looking at more detail on that as you produce this. But the pricing and the competitor analysis are very, very important, as we've said all along, but they're also heavily influenced by the you're aiming at and the market competition that you're in. So the market research and costing plan, % of your overall mark, so it's a reasonably significant amount. Of this, 25% will be on the industry analysis, 10% on competitor analysis, 30% on product or service description, 10% on pricing strategy, because it's fairly straightforward. It's not a big thing to do, even though it's very, very important. And finally, 25% on the SWOT analysis, and we'll have a quick look at what these are. So the first section is really about knowing the environment and what sort of business area you're going to be working in. You need to spend a bit of time going out looking at what's already out there, who you'd be competing with. Is there anyone who has patents on items? Patent searches can actually be very good for gathering ideas. You can patent search. I've put up a couple of sites there that you can start looking. Idea of what people have been working on, who's actually doing it, and don't breach other people's intellectual property. And that has full details within the patent of what's involved. The first place to start looking, though, is, as everyone knows, ask Dr. Google. Just do a Google search on the. Be very careful what keywords you pick. It will help significantly in tracking down items which are similar to what you have. All right, so first, then start narrowing down. Use Google search to pick out your keywords. Start looking in the in the patent area, which is generally openly available. If you have access to some of the academic databases, they can be useful, but they tend to be very, very specialised and only cover minute parts of a solution. If you're familiar with academic writing, it tends to be very, very specific, so small areas in journal articles. They don't give an overview, so they can be a little bit time-consuming to run through, and probably not the best way to work through this sort of project. They're also kind of difficult to get to behind paywalls, etc. Okay, so this is the document that is up on edX now, and it'll allow you to fill in fields. I'll just comment that the document we've uploaded to isn't an absolute necessity to use. It's there as a guide. If you find a better way of doing it, do it that way. If you're not comfortable with some parts, change the way you address them. But just keep in mind that original, I'll just snip back to it, original brush marks. This is how it will be assessed. So you need to ensure that you're addressing each of these areas. Okay, so that's what we've done in the template which we've uploaded. Okay, so the first section asks us to look at the environment, and these can be many things. You might be able to think of some others that would affect your particular product, service, whatever. And it is broad. We've got to look at the political situation. That can actually have some effect. Is it legal to do what you're doing? Countries have some very, very odd laws, or what we would consider odd laws. In Sri Lanka during the Civil War, it was illegal to use or take photos of government buildings. And if your application was a tourist guide, you'd need to make sure that any images that you uploaded didn't pictures of Sri Lankan government buildings. So the political situation can be something. Economic factors, exchange rates, rates of inflation, current interest rates, those sort of things, fairly straightforward. What are the economic environments that you're moving into? And again, that can be quite complex if you're aiming at a global market. And nowadays, with the internet, everyone should really be aiming for a global market because there's no real barriers to selling anywhere in the world. We're all familiar with Etsy, eBay, and other selling platforms, Amazon, and you can get your products on there fairly easily and at a reasonable cost. So we don't just look at your local market unless your solution is specifically for your local market. You're aware of what would happen selling into other countries. One of the complex areas is that of taxation. Australia's just gone through what's been called a Netflix tax, or is it an Amazon tax? I can't remember what they termed it. But we have a local sales tax in Australia of 10%, and they have imposed that on all international companies selling online into Australia. And that has imposed some significant expenses on those companies, being basically a tax collector for the Australian government for all sales coming into the country. So you would need to look at that and budget for a method of collecting the tax and paying the taxes in the local areas. Be aware of issues. Some things we have to be a little bit careful of with the cultural aspects of the country we want to sell in. But there is also, so if we look at selling education products, the biggest markets in the world are in developing countries where they don't have the infrastructure to deliver certain types of courses. So the US, UK, Australia are all trying to sell education into these growth markets. And there is a huge appetite for education. So if your product is something that can cater specifically for a social market, then the technology factors, well, these are the ones we're really concentrating on here. Internet access. If you're working on something that is a fairly high bandwidth application that requires a good backbone of the internet, I would suggest not looking at countries like Myanmar, because their internet is minimal to some extent. So you look at the markets which will actually suit your product's technology. And of course, looking at the industry itself, what are the future trends affecting the industry? What barriers are there? Now, this can also include barriers such as regulation. If you're looking at getting into the telecommunications field, that's generally highly regulated. We've got to be very careful of what we're doing and how we can actually get access to the telecoms backbone. One of the worst ones to get into as far as regulation goes is medical systems. They are very, very highly regulated, and they have an extremely long proving time to ensure that whatever you develop isn't going to do harm or cause side effects. So industry that you're going into, they face different kinds of barriers depending on that industry, and it's important that you find out what the barriers are, what future trends are, where it's heading, and that you researchers limiting patents to fairly recent times, and looking at some market analysis. Now, I think I was meant to mention this a little bit earlier. Yep. You can also go through, and this is listed in the document, there's some government statistics that will give you this sort of information for that table on the next page. IBIS World, which is a business statistics link. Working through industry associations is also really, really handy. Template that we've provided. Next section is a competitor analysis. It's fairly straightforward. We'll want you to fill in the table with several possible competitors and cover these sort of things. If you think of something else, please add it. If it's not relevant, please state that it's not relevant or why you're not covering a certain area. Probably the key things here is a description of the product and the market. So if you're competing against someone like Apple, you're going to suffer quite a bit of competition, and it's important, absolutely crucial, that you know what you're up against. A big company, they can do things like Microsoft's famous for, and pricing you out of the market. So they can afford to lose on a particular item, or away for free, such as happened with Internet Explorer, because they've got other revenue streams that will keep them running. In the meantime, you've got no income, go broke, and then they can put the whatever price they like onto their product. So be very careful about who you're up against and their ability to conduct economic warfare on you. Another really important thing is brand loyalty. If you think of Apple, people will buy Apple even if it's not the best product because they have loyalty to that product. And if you're trying to compete with them, you're going to have a really, really good reason to do so. If we look at iPhones, for example, they're a really pretty device, a lot of brand loyalty, but Samsung and the others come out with technologically much, much better phones. I actually use an iPhone, so I'm one of the Apple fanboys, but they have to compete by producing a much more technically advanced product compared to the Apple product because of this brand loyalty. So then look at the weaknesses, and we can think of the iPhone. It's 2 or 3 steps behind the technology of some of the other Chinese and Korean manufacturers. Okay. So we need to look at our products and service, describe what we're doing. This is one of the sections within the template. Compare it to the competitors, and extract the customer benefits of your solution. This is your main selling point. And again, going back to the Canvanizer, you should be able to extract information directly from Canvanizer that you created, and that is one of the reasons we wanted to spend a fair bit of time on Canvanizer and put some effort into that, which you obviously did because they were good marks. With the pricing strategy, we've discussed a little bit about this. You need to include your R&D recovery cost if that's in your plan, and decide really between two possible options. Is this a philanthropic? Are you doing it for the good of the world? Or is this a product or service to maximize your return on investment? And picking between those two will very much influence how you do your pricing. There's a link to a very good, very short article, pricing strategies, and a range of ways you can approach this. So I suggest that, would you mind just copying that link? I'll send it to you and just pop it up in the discussion board somewhere at some point.
Okay, yes. Yeah.
As I said, I was hunting through a couple of days ago and I found that site. It actually does give a very good and brief discussion on how you should set your pricing up. Okay. And the final part of it, and this graphic didn't come out very clear, so I've made it really big, is the SWOT analysis. The SWOT analysis is to... Ooh, that has come out badly on the display there. Sorry about that, but we can see it there. The four areas you look at assist with how to work out your business needs, and will also assist in attracting investors because it shows that you've reviewed the possible threats and strengths, weaknesses, opportunities that are associated with your product. This is really key, and I suggest, even though it's not heavily weighted within the assessment, it is worth spending a reasonable amount of time on this SWOT analysis. Again, a lot of the information contained within this the SWOT template can be drawn directly from your Canvanizer. So make use of your Canvanizer. In fact, once you've written the costing and this report up, go back to your Canvanizer and update it a little bit. Take some of the things that have come out through this exercise, put it back into your Canvanizer so that your Canvanizer remains a living document that you can use to build each and every step along the way. It's a great way of just keeping notes on the process. Okay, so that's what's expected. I forget the exact due date, but I think it is 2 weeks away. Josh, do you know offhand?
Yeah, the 20th of August.
20th of August.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's due fairly soon. He probably already made a start, I hope, but
Wednesday next week. Yep. And double check the time exactly.
Yep. Okay, so that should give you a fairly reasonable overview of what we expect to see. Make use of your Canvanizer, cover everything that is in points. Not necessarily, as I said, you don't have to follow our template if you don't want to, but just make sure that you've covered these particular points. All right, so that's all I wanted to cover. So now we need to, or we should start talking about any issues, questions, etc. that you may have. Did anyone say they haven't received answers to their email, Josh?
I haven't seen any hands up in the window or any chat saying that, but if anyone does have a problem, just let us know. Oh, we've got a hand up from Mauricio. Hello, Mauricio.
Yes. How you doing? I'm sorry. I couldn't listen at the beginning of the class, and I apologize. I had trouble with my voice, or I don't know. There's something wrong with the network. But anyway, my question with this business plan that we're gonna put in place and present really soon. It has to be like a PDF document, or there's a format that.
We don't mind, as long as it's in something fairly
My
standard.
concern is how to present it. I just work in a Word document and pass into PDF and upload it, or is it going to be a different process? I'm sorry. Maybe it was explained. Maybe it's already on the information and I haven't read it, so I apologize for my question.
It should all be on the... There we go. I'll bring that up. It should all be on edX. But basically, what we've given you is, can you see this, Josh?
Yes.
Yep. We've given you this PDF, and if you wish, you can type directly into it and then upload that document. That's the easiest way. If you want to change it or you want to produce your own, go ahead. But we've given this one to make life as simple as possible. And there's a couple of examples put in as well. And there's a better view of our SWOT. Does that answer your question?
I'm sorry.
Mauricio, is that what you were asking, or did that answer your question? Oh, we'll come back. He may be having some more trouble.
Yeah.
We'll come back to him. But Robert has a question. Hello, Robert.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay. Hi.
Yep.
We're looking for a project going to be on the blue ocean, and we don't really find a close competitor on it. Maybe we're going just to take size group and consulting group, but nobody make the mix between the both one and what we're looking for.
So you're not able to find any existing competitors or even close?
Not really.
Good. That's excellent.
Each have just part of those, but if we want to bring it together, nobody is there.
Well, that is your unique value proposition, all of these things together. The competitors would be the people who are supplying the solution. If your answer to that competition is you're actually going to draw on their products to produce yours, which does something different, there's your advantage. They become not only competitors, but they're also the workers with you. And as long as you're fairly clear on how you determine that nobody is doing this, there we go, that's not a problem. So in the competitor name and product, you can put the you do, but add a column or change the weakness or change the strength that it doesn't cover the full spectrum of what your device is covering. So if you may be using them and they're not really a competitor, they're a partner in it, you can treat them as a competitor for this sort of area by saying what they're going to contribute. Don't forget at the risk end, when you do the SWOT, what happens if they go broke, they get sold out, they change their product completely? How are you going to continue if one of your major contributors no longer exists or is no longer willing to work with you?
The plan B or C, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, fine. Thanks.
All right, Ed, if anyone else has any questions, you can raise your hand in the participants window or type in the chat window if you need to. Otherwise, no one at the moment, Ian.
Okay. I wonder what last week that's interesting. I'm trying to think of some of the emails we've had that could be relevant. Has anyone got a really interesting name for their product yet? If you have, type it in. Let's see what they are. And if you're having any issues selecting a platform, we have mentioned this in some of the seminars, but I'm not sure which ones, about picking something off the shelf, easy, even if it's more powerful or more expensive than what you would end up. It's good to develop on something that you can get your hands on very easily and won't introduce any problems because they're usually thoroughly tested before they reach market. And if it turns out that you've got the quantities in demand, you can then start building your own particular hardware. And I think I've shown this before. It's just an Arduino Uno. There it is. With all of the extra bits and pieces taken off so that we can reduce the size. I'll grab my Arduino.
Well, you're doing that. Psycat has a question on the chat window about whether uploading the document will suffice or needing to submit the video. I think that's just a bit of confusion about the...
So what we've done is... I'll just take this back. I don't know if you can see that.
I'll continue that in a moment.
If you can see those two, this is a Arduino Uno clone, and this one does exactly the same functions as this one that we need. So there's lots of extra ports and things on here, and headers for prototyping, really handy to develop on. Once you've developed, you can reduce it down to something nice and small. All right, so that one's actually made to fit on the wrist. But that makes life easy. This makes life cheap.
And Psycat was just confirming the documents you've been displaying. He was wondering about uploading those documents, or he was confused. He's confused about whether there are those to upload or the video. I just want to confirm that the video presentation is required still next Wednesday, rather than compare. Do you just want to explain the document been showing in relation to the video presentation?
Okay, they're completely separate assessment items. The video is the pitch. It's assessing your ability to communicate in an oral or live type of session. The video pitch is a completely separate assessment item. The cost analysis is another assessment item that is going to be used within the final report. We're hoping that we can reuse as much as possible. So if you once you can use it again and again and build on it throughout the course. So the Canvanizer is your first step, and that's where you put down all your ideas, brainstorm things, a wish list of what you'd like to do. Then is to give some training or some experience in presenting your idea to investors or to your company or to interested parties. This is the first step in writing your formal report. So this is looking at certain aspects of, key aspects of the product development cycle. This PDF or Word document, if you turn it into that, will be uploaded to edX through the normal channels. And I'm no expert on that side of things. Josh, do you know the method they use for that? But it's the same as you've done with your... I haven't done anything with that yet. But it's the same as we've done with previous edX courses and uploading documents.
Yeah, the submission point, I think it's similar to what you would have done with your Canvanizer, but where you can upload a document.
Yep.
Yeah. And
so,
for the video, it will be a hyperlink to your video, whether it's on YouTube or Vimeo or another platform such as that.
And those with commercially sensitive can send the link directly through to the IoT capstone email. And we'll keep
and just like and anyone else, just to confirm, there is a document to help you plan your video presentation as well that you will have found back in the week 5 content. There are about 4 pages there explaining, helping you as a guide to what you should be including in your video, and also a breakdown of how it will be marked, so which points will be allocated to grades.
I'm just seeing if I can...
Yeah, if you're looking at week 5, there's a section there. I don't have it up at the moment.
No, neither do I. I thought I might have had it on my local machine. If anyone has any issues finding that, just let us know and we can point it out.
So I've got another question here from Jerusa, asking about the focus of the video. Is it like a simulation of a presentation to financial investors, or is it like a presentation of the idea and status of the project for a board or a manager?
It's more for potential investors, or pitching the idea to the board or managers to say, I've got this great idea for the company, could start producing this device, it would help our bottom line, etc., to try and gain funding or resources from your company to be able to develop the system. So it's pitching the idea, trying to say it's a great idea, it has excellent market or social benefits, this is the problem that we are going to solve with it, this is the resources we need, and this is my approach on how to solve that problem. So you can, the set described up on the on edX, but it really is trying to get the idea, the importance of your idea across to people who will give you the ability to actually produce it or not. So whether that be investors or whether that be your boss within the company you're already working, it doesn't really matter. It's going to be along the same lines. I have a great idea. This is going to make lots of money, or it's going to change the world. I need to have this set of resources, and it will solve this problem for this group of people.
Okay. No other questions at this moment, but if anyone has another one, Jerisa says thanks for that. That's answered the question. Omar has raised his hand. Hello, Omar. I'll just unmute your microphone in case that's the problem. Hello, Omar.
Might be best typing.
Yeah, we can't hear anything from you, Omar, at this stage. So if that's still not working, you can type his microphone.
While he's checking, is anyone having trouble locating a sensor for their projects, not knowing which sort of sensor to use or how to actually gather some particular data? That's the sort of thing we could possibly, if you're looking for a particular platform, again, ask if your one is a good platform sensor processor to use. We'll offer some advice on that. Programming languages. Is Valon or Hannes? Hannes, I think, is teaching today, this morning.
And we have Siavash.
Siavash is there, good.
Yeah.
So, again, Siavash is our embedded systems inertial measurement unit expert.
Yes, Omar, we can hear you now.
Sorry.
Oh.
Okay, I think that now you can hear me. Okay, first of all, my apologies because last week I had some misunderstandings, and I was thinking that the session was the day after. So when I was going to connect, okay, of course the session was the day before, and just to say that it's rather a general comment to say that I'm really enjoying all this training online that we have been doing since 1 year. And for the moment, I don't really have, let's say, specific questions, but as soon as I start progressing more and more on the technical part and the specific devices and this, I think I will have more questions. So that's what I wanted to say.
Oh, great. That's why we did it, really. So, yeah. All right. Well, as you get any questions, you can either wait until the fortnightly session, but don't forget you've got the that you can send us as well. So if you require something a little bit more immediate, send an email in. We do our best to reply within 2 working days. If you don't get a reply in 2 working days, resend the email. It just means it's been pushed down the list without being got to. But generally, we get back to people, or we try to get back to people on the same day. And I understand the time difference. I've been teaching globally for 17 years now, and time zones are our worst enemy.
Siavash has something to add. Hello, Siavash.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So, I thought it might be worth mentioning because I've got a couple of emails with students concerning about their idea not being unique and other people doing something similar along the lines of their idea. I think this is something before. Just because someone else has a similar idea doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be completely obsolete. The way you're going to implement it, the way you build up your system and you set up the way you're capturing your information, you're showing that information and how that's going to be used, that's what's going to make your product unique. And if we expected every time we come up with an idea for that to be something completely new, we would have had new product invented every single engineering project, which I don't think is realistic. So I just want to say, because I think that happened because some people were marking the carbonizers and there are some similarities between the ideas. So don't get discouraged. Just focus on what makes your own idea unique and improvement you're making on implementation of that idea. That's going to be what's going to be unique about your product, not just because whether, say, the idea is working with children with cerebral palsy and there's another person in the group who's working with children with cerebral palsy as well. So just like I mentioned that.
Right. Any more? Omar, you still have the hand raised. Did you have another question, or was it just up from before? Yeah, I think he's okay. Anybody else? That's okay, Omar. All right. No, not at this stage. So, mm. And on that note, with the teams, you will have seen the email that came out yesterday, where we've consolidated a few of the teams where some teams were only one or two people. We've suggested that they leave that and join another team which still has similar requirements for their project, even if it might be a different topic, a different of study. So make sure you make use of the teams where it's useful if you want to work together, help each other with suggestions and ideas. There's been some good comments in amongst there and some other that have been shared. And yes, a lot of people, as you were saying, are working on quite similar projects, so you can help each other. If there are any questions at all or any clarification required, that is definitely the time you can do that. But if everyone's satisfied, then there's no more at this stage. So. Varun says yes, and Mauricio? And Robert? Yeah, Robert, you've got your hand raised. Do you also have a question? Or no, okay, yeah. So yeah, that's a few who have their prototypes underway. Varun's suggesting, can we have 10 to 15 minutes of technical discussions in these sessions for taking the prototypes forward? Varun, do you have a particular question on that regarding technical points for your prototype? He's typing in the chat window, so he may be a moment anyway. So he doesn't have a question at the moment, but maybe in the next session. And Mauricio does have a lot of problems with his prototype, but he'll send an email because he's really having connection problems today on the WebEx. So, yeah. I was just looking for one myself. I thought I might have one here, but I'll let Ian find that. Yeah, so I was just going to add don't forget about using CAD if you do need a breadboard simulated, because it's quite a lot you can do on Tinkercad without actually having to get all the equipment. And for instance, you can code on Tinkercad using the block programming and equivalent wiring language created for you, and you could potentially copy and paste straight out of that Tinkercad programming into a real Arduino board, or upload that same code into a real Arduino board after practicing on Tinkercad. You can actually use it for that purpose if that would help preparing your prototype. No questions. Omar says he's tried something at home using the Google API and it works nice, or APPI, I'm not sure. API, yeah. He says correct, yes. And Psycat wanted to check the name of the second device for home automation. I think one of the second device you held up. How do we spell that, or type it in? If oh, there it is. I can see it. If you No, someone's asking about the speech one. That is the one. I'm just typing it in case someone's having video. I see Avash providing a link as well. So there you go. All right, so that, yep, thank you, he says. And Omar, who said he was having a few issues with delay, I think, with this connection. But anyway, he's asking about the Raspberry Pi 4. Any thoughts on that? All right, yeah. Siavash has put a link there for a video where with overclocking the Raspberry Pi 4. Yeah. Varun says he's tried running .NET Core application on the Pi and it runs great. So, yeah. No more questions at this stage?